don't think so. It would be week to week, but probably.
At what point during the week are you guys just evaluating to see what will be ready?
Help you out.
Kobe Turner, is that rusty or is there anything?
His back's bothering him a little bit, so we're going to be smart with him. Okay, see you guys later.
Looked like Pierre Thomas was having some success dropping in coverage. What did you see improving the
You know, he's done a really good job, and it's not exclusive to the coverage. That was a great play that he made. But Pierre's had a really good camp. You know, I think Joe does such a great job with that, with really that whole outside linebacker room. Been really pleased with all of them. They're all continuing to show improvement. But you know, Pierre's been a guy that's been with us for a long time. He's getting better and better. I think he really makes his presence felt on some of the early downs. But that was awesome. And I think what's really cool is you see how excited his teammates get for him when he makes plays like that. And you know, he's a Ram through and through. Really like what he's doing.
When you think back to your first year as a head coach, were there any times where you felt mentally just overloaded? And if so, how did you kind of combat that?
You know, I probably didn't even know what I didn't know then. So I think what I've always felt really fortunate about Sarah is I've been surrounded by great people. I can really remember, you know, having Wade Phillips as a defensive coordinator, and when you're a young head coach, you know, I think sometimes you think you feel like you have to have all the answers, and you know, he helped me realize that no, there's real strength in saying I don't know the answer, but I'll figure it out, or leaning on the people around you. Where you got Wade Phillips, you know, you had John Fossil, guys like Aaron Cromer. We had a lot of really great coaches. Matt LaFleur was on that staff. Zach Taylor, Shane Waldron. You know, so I've been really fortunate to be surrounded by really good people. You know, and I think the cool thing about it is, you know, when it was that early, you had that unobstructed mind. You know, you didn't know what to worry about. I oftentimes am reminded of, you know, never forgetting that this is truly a blessing. And, you know, in those moments, and it was a blur, but I don't think that, you know, I felt like I was, you know, hindered by stuff. But it was a pretty smooth journey. And, you know, I think the cool thing when I reflect back on those early years is you are totally and completely present. You know, you're trying to bring the right authentic energy and vibe and pouring into people, and you know, that's what we're going to continuously try to do going into year 9.
With Liam as a first-time head coach, is there any advice you give him on the mental aspect of navigating this year?
Oh yeah, I think, you know, it's just, you know, Liam and I talk a lot, and I think it's about leaning on the people around you, and don't feel like you have to have all the answers. You know, make sure that you know, you do a great job of being able to delegate to the great people that you've surrounded yourself with. Liam knows way more than I knew when I first got the job, so he's way ahead of the curve, like all these other guys that are getting their opportunities to go do their thing. So they won't make the same mistakes I did.
Sean, did you Landman left practice?
Yeah, I think he felt a little bit of a calf. We were just being smart with him. You know, I felt you know, err on the side of caution. That was kind of what they had communicated to me.
And Canada, Mumpfield.
Yeah.
It seems like making a big impression on you.
Yeah.
What's your kind of assessment?
He's doing a great job. You know, I think you're right. You know, you see him making a lot of plays. He's a mature rookie. You know, he's a guy that is wired to be able to separate. I think he's catching the football really well. He's really smart and conscientious. You know, he's moving around, can do a lot of different things. But you're right. He's one of the guys that has really shined, you know, with some of those younger guys. And he continues to be able to, you know, just answer the bell with the opportunities that he's gotten. And I think Stetson's done a nice job being able to get the football to him. But been really pleased with him. He is he's doing a heck of a job.
What are you seeing in Nate Shielhaus, and what does he bring to the table for the offense in the second?
Yeah, you know, he's a great coach. You know, he's got a big picture perspective. He's got a great ability to be able to connect with the players. You know, he's a rare communicator, has high emotional intelligence. He really works at it. You know, I think Nate's one of those guys, you know, like a good amount of the coaches that we do have, is they take a role and a responsibility, and then they redefine it for whoever comes into that role whenever he gets a chance to continue to elevate himself. But in a short amount of time, he has made himself incredibly valuable. He's got a great humility about himself too, and you know, you see why he had all the success at his previous stops, and you know, why people were trying to come get him this year. But we're fortunate to be able to have him, and we'll cherish it if it's for one more year, hopefully a couple more than that.
You talked about wanting to add versatility to the offense back in January. What type of optionality does the depth of the tight end really give you?
Yeah, it's big, Adam. I think people are excited over you guys heard he's coming out of retirement. You know what? I think what it does is it gives us the ability to be able to mix personnels, you know, and ultimately it's how do we bring it to life? What does that really look like? But I feel like, you know, we've got a really deep tight end room. Scooter Huff has done an excellent job, but Tyler Higbee leading the way. I think Colby Ferguson and Davis Allen have been outstanding, and I've really been pleased with Terrence Ferguson. It's unfortunate that he got a little bit of a groin. Don't know how long he'll be out for. But we are going to be smart, and you can see at this point when you get into that third block, some of those things can kind of wear on you, or you get some guys with some soft tissue stuff, and so we do want to be smart with him, but that gives us a real chance to be versatile, and we got some depth at running back that you feel good about, and then Gary asked earlier about Kanade. I think Xavier Smith's another guy, and Jordan Whittington continues to take steps, and then we know those top 3 guys, so feel really good about that. And if you're looking at a positive, like I mentioned, can't wait to be able to get Matthew back out here leading the way, and I know he's chomping at the bit as well, but in the meantime, Stetson and Jimmy are doing a really good job of continuing to get better and use these reps for their benefits.
Couple more, guys.
Yeah, his impact is instrumental. We're able to use him when you're referencing all the things that we want to be about, what he's been, what he represents as a man, how he went about it the right way with his work ethic, the way that he enjoyed competing, the mindset he had, the energy that he brought every single day. So he epitomizes everything, and then he still stays connected. He's really special to me. He's really special to this place, and his impact is so significant. And so when he comes around, it sure means a lot. And when he speaks, guys certainly listen.
Sean, with Stafford, is there any way given how he's not practiced, that he would participate in joint practices with like the Cowboys or the Chargers?
Cowboys, no. The Cowboys, I would say that's less than likely. With the Chargers, and I know I'm probably irritating you guys, but it truly is a week-to-week thing, and what I don't want to do is set a timeline. I know he's making good progress. Saw Dr. Watkins again today. Everything is in good shape. But to answer your question, Gary, the Cowboys is a no, and then we'll see about the Chargers.
Is Dr. Watkins the same
Last
guy
one,
you saw
guys.
at the end of the 22 season?
I don't know that. You have to ask Frazier. This there, Holiday Inn Express last night.
All right.
Okay.